Hey guys, and welcome back to FATBOSS TV. Today we're looking at the 5th boss in the Eternal Palace with Orgozoa. This two-phase encounter takes place in two different rooms separated by a ramp, covered in traps that you need to avoid. Anyway, let's jump straight in and talk about phase 1. So to start off, let's talk about the tanks. Now this boss hits insanely hard, like harder than anything else you've seen so far this expansion. However, the boss will slowly stack desensitizing Sting on you, reducing all incoming damage you take by 10% per stack. Now at 10 stacks, you will instantly die, so you need to tank swap before this. However, as you won't have any stacks on the pool, and whenever you initially tank swap, you want to make sure that you have cooldowns chaining until you at least have a couple of stacks. Now the Sting debuff isn't just great for countering boss damage, it's super useful for the adds. On a timer, 3 Zotroid adds will spawn in. These guys deal small bursts of unavoidable damage to the entire raid, and if they're near the boss they will gain a 50% damage dealt and reduced damage taken buff, so you've got to tank them 15 yards away. The DPS needs to swap to the adds and just kill them off before the next set spawns in. However, when they die they do leave behind a splatter puddle. These will explode after 5 seconds, dealing lethal raid-wide damage unless you soak them. But when you do soak them, they still hit incredibly hard, so this is where your tanks come in. By having the tank swap the moment the adds come in, providing that the adds die in time, the tank will still have Sting sacks that you can use to soak the puddles, taking far less damage than any other raid members. And if that tank stacks did happen to drop for whatever reason, then immunities like ice blocks also worked well. Now aside from the adds, the raid also has to watch out for dribbling Ica. These circles come in 3 waves and cover large areas of the room. Getting caught deals massive damage, potentially lethal damage on Heroic and Mythic. Now the gaps are easy to get to, you just got to stop casting and immediately move when they spawn. Last to mention for the phase is the Incubation Fluid. This permanent debuff is applied to a single player early in the fight, and more are applied randomly throughout. All this does is a small amount of ticking damage, but towards the end of the phase, this debuff is applied to almost everybody, forcing healers to chain cooldowns to keep everyone up. This debuff is made worse by the Arcing Current cast. The boss will use this ability on a timer, dealing a moderate burst of damage to some players with Incubation Fluid. This acts like a chain lightning effect as well, making the fluid debuff also jump to other players if they're too close to you. So debuff players need to keep spread, making sure that when the Arcing Current is cast, it doesn't hit additional players. Anyway, after dealing with all of that for around 3 minutes, the third set of Zotroid adds will spawn. All Incubation Fluid debuffs are removed and the boss will open up the back wall and run down the ramp. Once he makes it all the way to the bottom, he'll begin to cast Massive Incubator. If this cast goes off, it awakens the denizens of the hatchery. We have no idea what that is, but it sounds really fucking bad, so we just made sure that we interrupted it. The duration of the cast was different on each test, which is relevant because we're not sure what strategy you're actually supposed to use here. You've got to go and interrupt the boss, but you also have a new set of adds spawn at the same time. If possible, you want to kill the adds first and then run down to interrupt. But what appears more likely is that you need to run down first and wait for the adds to follow. We tried both and had mixed results. Whenever we ran straight down, the adds would just evade and not come down after us, so this is something we don't really know how it will work until the boss hits live servers. Now whilst you are running down the ramp, you do need to avoid AoE patches and eggs. Both of these have a knockback effect, and getting knocked off into the middle will make you fall to your death. We found that you can also drop all the way to the end using a speed increase on the high ledge, but this is very risky as there is an egg directly below you as you land. It is possible to avoid it, but you have to face your camera perfectly to do so. However, on our very latest test, it appears that they've also added flying jellyfish around the area where you can jump down, and these jellyfish just one-shot you if you're too close to them. So it's likely far safer just to go down the ramp rather than trying to completely avoid it. Regardless, once you're at the bottom and you've interrupted the boss, phase 2 will begin. This phase is mechanically identical to phase 1, you just have a far larger room to play in. You'll also have 3 new adds spawn, and which adds you get seems to be entirely random, they don't seem to have any set spawn pattern. You can get warriors, which are named Myrmidons in the dungeon journal, which will cast Aqualance at random players. This deals a burst of damage and leave behind a patch of ticking shit, so you just gotta make sure as soon as you're targeted that you move towards the edges of the room just to keep the encounter space clean. As for the witches, they will cast Shocking Lightning, which deals a burst of damage to random players, as well as Conductive Pulse, which stuns everyone for 3 seconds if it's not interrupted, so it's very important that that's covered. And lastly, the Hulks, they'll cast Powerful Stomp. This will create a targeting circle around them that deals massive physical damage split between all players within it, and if no players are within the circle, then the entire raid will just take a large burst of damage. So you'll want the majority of your raid to stand in the initial circle just to split the damage. But aside from those 3 new guys, it's just nuke adds whenever they spawn, whilst dodging circles and spreading as much as you can to minimize the incoming raid damage from arcing current casts and the Incubation Fluid debuffs.
So yeah, not a whole lot going on, but of course, as with all of our PTR previews, to end the video, what are our thoughts on the fight?
Yeah, it's okay. I think it was extremely difficult on Mythic. The incoming damage that the raid was taking once everyone had an Incubation Fluid debuff was absolutely insane.
Yeah, it was pretty nutty.
And this is made even harder on Mythic because of the way that the jellyfish adds have been changed. Way more of them spawn throughout Mythic, to the point where, well, we were playing around with a strategy of keeping them up and nuking the boss and just hoping we could kill them all at the end.
Yeah, it was a bit rough, wasn't it?
Yeah, the damage was really, really high. But how that's going to be tuned for live, I just cannot wait to see. I think it could potentially be a really difficult boss. And that sort of applies to all versions of this encounter, really. Everyone kind of has an important job. You know, tanks can't mess up their stacks or it's a wipe. DPS, if you don't kill the adds and the circles aren't soaked, it's a wipe. If healers don't chain their cooldowns towards the end of phase 1, then it's a wipe. There isn't a lot of other mechanics going on. Just everyone in the raid does have a job that they need to execute. Otherwise, you know, the whole thing just falls to pieces. And I like that.
It's very delicate, you could say.
Absolutely,
like, if just one thing goes wrong, then everything starts falling behind. Mainly just to the tank stacks, really. If they're just misplaced at any point, because DPS can't even help try and reset them. It will always hit the tank, even if the tank isn't
Well, that's
lying
the thing.
on threat.
DPS can help them, because if the adds die fast,
yeah, of course.
then
I
that
mean,
gives the
if,
tanks more time.
but it doesn't really give you any recovery. That's more what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So if you get it wrong, then you've really got it wrong. You know, someone's gonna die, and you just need to try and get them back up and try and salvage what you can, which can be very difficult in this fight.
As for the other aspects of the encounter, I think the transition's really cool.
Oh, the
Going down
addition
ramp.
of the jellyfish, because of course when we first tested this, everyone just leapt down. We just used the speed totem, and it was a complete joke getting to the bottom. But nowadays, those jellyfish is really unclear whether or not they're the things actually one-shotting us. I'm pretty sure they are, but some people managed to make the jump, other people didn't. So just to err on the safe side, just for the first week of Heroic, I would probably avoid going over that gap.
Yeah,
just for now,
just go down
until
the ramp.
people understand what's going on.
One thing we should mention is the tank damage.
It's very high.
Yeah, it's so insane that on the pool you will just get one shot as a tank. Of course, you can precast CDs to counter that, but it's maybe a little bit too strong. And ultimately, this fight, I mean, it could just be cheesed by monks.
Yeah, not only is Saga super powerful, and you can use Zen meds to soak the patches from the little ads when they die, but it's just totems. Their Ox statues are so good for picking up ads.
Yep.
And the thing is, you can tank swap all the time with multiple ads if you have 2 monk tanks as well. And I can easily see that being the Mythic strat as well, just because of how frequently those ads come in. I don't think you're going to want to kill them every single time they spawn. You'll probably want to kill them every 2 times. So the tanks will need to be swapping the entire time that's going on, and that's only really going to be done with monks. So yeah, I can see a lot of the top guilds going for that double monk strategy for this fight.
And even if that isn't the strategy, monk is still the best tank for this fight by miles, which isn't necessarily a problem. But I think they could be a little bit kinder to the other classes by maybe bringing the boss damage down a little before it hits live servers. But to conclude, even though the fight, of course, doesn't have many mechanics and abilities, for the most part it is just stand still, target swap and nuke the boss, but it's still a fun fight, and the abilities that are there do work well together, and I think Blizzard did a pretty good job here.
Either way, guys, that's where we're going to leave it today. Thank you very much for watching. If you do want to keep up to date with this boss and be ready to kill it first week when it hits live servers, then do go check out our written work over on Wowhead. The link for that can be found in the description below. If you did enjoy this video, then do throw us a like. It really does help us out, and we'll catch you all in the next one.
Catch you later.
Thanks for watching.